Hey, good people. Welcome to Sit Down Hawaii. I'm Josh, your host, and we are glad that you're here. We are a podcast with a mission to provide meaningful conversations around Hawaii's future with people that lead. And I'm excited. I'm very, very, very excited. This is our first podcast with two people contending for your voice. And we're not a political podcast. We're a podcast about issues. But right now we're in that political space, right? We know that there's a election coming up, and I think it really matters to hear from specific people in specific districts. And so today we're jumping into District 29, and that's going to be Kalihi, Kamehameha Heights, Kalihi Valley and Kamehameha Heights. And so we know there's a rich history there. There's a massive culture there. And today we're going to just jump into a few questions. And I hope that you get to learn a little more about the voices that's going to represent you. So with that being said, I want to introduce our guest today. Aloha. Thank you so much for being here, both of you.
Absolutely.
I kind of told you this before when we started that we send an email out to every district that has, an incumbent and a challenger. And it was really, really interesting because some people had different responses. Some were good, some were bad. I'll leave it at that. But, you two both really stepped up and said, I would love to do this.
Yeah.
And I think it's really brave. It says a lot about you without saying anything about you, that I truly believe that the people of District 29 have two really amazing opportunities in candidates with you. And I'm very thankful and I'm very grateful that you're here.
Well, we appreciate the invitation, Mahalo.
Yeah. Glad to be here.
Thank you. Okay, we've got a few rules. Ready?
Right.
Listen, we're just going to set some foundations just because I know this is a crazy time and we're all campaigning. So here, rule number one here at the Sit Down Hawaii podcast is respect. We believe that you don't need to agree on everything, that you can have your own opinions, but respect is something that I think is really important. So let's just treat each other with aloha. Number two, community first. We are here to talk about the issues of Kalihi and Kamehameha. Kamehameha Heights and Kalihi Valley. And so I'm going to do my best to keep us there. Okay. And the third thing is I hope we have fun. I don't think we gotta force you to have fun, but this is a podcast. You could just relax, sigh.
Relax with the microphone in front of you.
Yeah.
And
You
the
gotta
camera
be perfect.
watching.
Yeah, you gotta be perfect.
Yeah.
A podcast is interesting because
Okay.
it actually gives people an insight to the real you.
Sure.
And I know you're both servant-hearted. So let's start. Let's take a second. I would love to know a little bit about you. I want to preface this by there was a really good debate that you had put on by Civil Beat that was done by Patty Epley, I think. Epler. Sorry, Patty, if you're out there. A really good job, and you really went down into details, and we talked a little bit about bills and the stark differences on a few of these topics. And so if you're at home and you're listening to this, and you want to learn very specific and get really detailed, go there, please. They did a really good job, and both of these people really brought their details. Today, I kind of want to go more about the people and more about Kalihi and Kamehameha Heights. So with that, let's start with you, Carole. A little bit about you, and who are you? What's going on?
That's a good question. I am Carole Kauhiwai Kaapu. I have been in the district since small kid days, Maimai Elementary, Kamehameha Intermediate High, then went all over, did different things, have been living in Aleva or in Kapalama since, 1990.
You don't need to say the date, don't worry.
And have lived and worked in the area, lots of different places. As far as for the campaigning side, worked at the Capitol for 8 sessions, all different things from senior legislative analyst to legislative aide to finance committee clerk.
Awesome.
All sorts of stuff. Really, my heart is to help our people have better lives.
Mm-hmm.
And most people honestly don't understand that what happens in the Capitol, the square building, impacts them. And so part of running for office is helping people understand that the people you vote for are going to impact your life. You might not understand that, but it does. They make decisions that end up changing your life. And so I'm running. My favorite thing is that my grandmother taught at Farrington, and I still meet people who were her students. Their favorite, Myrtle Kaapu. They're like, "Oh, are you Myrtle's what?" I'm like, "Granddaughter." They're like, "Oh, really? She's my favorite speech teacher." Oh, and so it's been great.
And, awesome. And your dad was on the city council too,
yes.
right? Before?
Yes. Yeah. So I actually swore after being raised in that world that I would never do this, ever do this.
Here you are.
And
here you are. That's awesome. I've noticed that it's. Tell me about the color. Is this just your color?
Yeah.
I feel like okay. Well, is there what's the thought around that?
Honestly, when in 2010 when I ran the first time, it was like you need to pick colors, and I found a jacket I liked. I had 2 colors, and I went, I like these colors.
That's the one.
Color.
And so you got your
your blue,
blue, cobalt, and your teal.
Yeah, there you go.
And that's that. So then that's just been it.
Yeah. Shout out to Kaapu High School. That's our colors. I just saying.
It?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Teal all the way.
Oh.
We may not be the best in a ton of things in sports or whatever, but we look good. We always look good.
Right
so
on.
That's good. Awesome. Well, thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Okay, Ikaika, your turn.
Looks do matter, Josh.
That's all that matters. No.
No, absolutely not. Well, let's see. I live in the back of Kalihi Valley. I have a dog and 2 cats and 3 kids and my spouse. And let's see. A lot of my work is on renewable energy and sustainability, that kind of stuff. Carbon sequestration. Mm-hmm. I think we should reverse climate change. I think that's really important. And let's see. I worked at the Capitol 25 years ago, something like that, a long time ago. And my work there was both on the finance side, which I think is kind of the biggest piece of the legislature, really is thinking about the state budget and what we spend money on and how we raise that money. And then also on policy, education policy. Yeah.
Wow. What did you say? 1 dog, 2 cats, 3? Was that like by design? I mean, clearly you've got like a science brain.
The inside joke is that, obviously the children are the most important thing, but the dog is a recent addition to our family and has been a, to use modern lingo, has been a very spicy addition. Created some issues, but we love the dog. The dog is great.
What kind of dog?
We're not sure. The dog is I think they call him a rescue. From the shelter.
Wow, that's how'd you get that dog? It's just
we were actually kind of looking for a cat. Saw the dog.
Cat number 3.
It was going to be cat number 1.
Oh, got you. So you got a dog, and you're like, we need to get 2 cats now.
Yeah. No, we've had several cats over the years.
Gotcha.
Love cats.
Is that your thing? Are you a cat person, dog person? I don't want to put you in a bubble. People might get upset.
Fine. I'm a people person.
Okay.
I'm happy that I can take care of animals, though.
That's saying a lot. I know people who won't go on trips because their dog is at home.
No. I will absolutely go on a trip. Yes. Yes.
That's funny. Yeah, there's no stopping me.
No, I'm going, bro.
I'll find friends. Listen, you feed the dog. Yeah. I love dogs.
Yeah.
But yeah, to not go on trips because of it.
Brother. No, you gotta go.
That's pretty crazy.
It's a beautiful world. You should explore it, man.
Yes.
That's what I believe in.
Yes.
Absolutely. I did some research on Kalihi, and it's crazy. When you look it up and you kind of go through it all, you've got ancient history, and you go through everything, and it's such a rich neighborhood. Just the whole space, and I put together the actual district lines, and who knows how these things are done. I'm not smart enough to know, to be quite honest. But
you made a real PowerPoint for this.
Oh yeah. That's
like a real PowerPoint.
Yeah, we're not.
I'm impressed. That's
here.
cool, man.
You came here to give your time. I want to make sure that it's time worth spent.
Cool.
I think a really big thing is that the diversity. Diversity and what you're doing is, and I saw the breakdown as best as I can remember, I should have had a slide up, and maybe we'll put it up. But clearly Filipino. We got Samoan, we got Tongan, so Hawaiian, just a ton of things. And then it was really interesting because you can kind of see the median household income really kind of fluctuate. I saw a breakdown of what was presumably by look like block. I gotta find
census block.
Yeah, it was like, man, whoa. Like, and I think it matters for me. I grew up in a Filipino home in Honokai Hale, and my dad is one of 6 siblings, and it was like one family had one room. So we were the Filipino whites with me and my 3 siblings, and then we had the Filipino Koreans with their 3 kids, and then the Filipino Hawaiians, and then we it just was that. And I could always tell how big a family is when you just drive by the house and you look outside and you see the slippers outside the door. And you're like, oh, there's a lot of people in that house, right? Yeah. And so I think Kalihi Valley, Kamehameha Heights, it seems to me like the diversity, and I think we've talked about this prior, it's the most diverse community in all of Hawaii. Yep. And so we want to start... we're going to move into this section called the Talk Story section. And basically, it's just 5 topics, 5 facts that we can have conversations around. Just your standpoint, what needs to be done, or, just insight that you see it from the perspective of Kama'aina. You ready to do that? We can do that? Yep. Okay, cool. So I'm going to just jump on in here. We'll start off with, actually, I'm going to use my notes because I think that's a little bit better. Affordable housing and homelessness. So that's our first one, affordable housing and homelessness. And I'm going to pull it up here just so you can read the note for yourself. Homelessness has increased significantly in District 29 over the past few years. The community has been vocal about the lack of affordable housing and the impact it's having on families. So I'm going to go into the data side. Homelessness in this district has increased by 40% over the last 4 years, with over 450 individuals currently unsheltered. And we know that number is probably a lot higher.
Much higher.
Yeah, but what's your thoughts on that? Affordable housing, homelessness, specifically in your district. Let's start with you, Ikaika.
So I want to pick apart those numbers just a bit, if I could.
Sure.
So
go right ahead.
When it says that 450 people are unhoused in our district, you're right. There's probably a lot more people in Kalihi and in Kapalama that are housing insecure, right? That are really like one bad fight in a domestic situation away from being houseless. Wow. But I think that that particular number is a kind of number that is used to what they're talking about is like the people living under the bridges. They're camping out in the streams, and they are perceived by the neighbors as being vagrants and problems. And there's absolutely a lot of crime and problems associated with those individuals. But the broader problem of houselessness is related to affordable housing. But there's so much to say about houselessness. Right? Like, because homelessness or houselessness is connected with mental illness. It's connected with drug abuse. It's connected with domestic violence. And there are local, like antecedents and sources for those problems. But there's also major national ones. Like it was, frankly, I kind of blame Ronald Reagan because he went and he just decimated the institutions which were caring for mentally ill individuals all throughout the United States. And we in Hawaii and everywhere else in the United States has been dealing with that, crazy policy decision 30 years ago.
Yeah. But you're saying we can't change something after 30 years?
I'm absolutely not saying that, Carol.
I'm like, 30 years ago. There's been a lot of water under the bridge since then.
No, I just think it's important to understand kind of how we got to today.
I want to bring it back to Kalihi. I want to bring it back to your district. So you live in Kalihi Valley.
Yes.
So as you're driving, you pick up the kids, you're going around, you got, let's just say, 2 of your cats with you. And
no, we don't bring the cats.
Oh, no, the cats are out.
Cats stay home.
Let's just say the kitty litter's inside the, the trunk. I guess the thought is, when you see homelessness and you see this around, because it's there.
It's there.
What are your thoughts around that? I think we could talk about the big scheme of, Oahu. But like for your community, like what can we do? Where's your heart at around that?
Yeah, I mean the reason I'm zooming out though is because the job of the legislature is actually to zoom out. We don't actually have any power in Kalihi. And that's really important for everyone to understand. Our job is the state budget and it's statewide policy. It's actually illegal. It's actually unconstitutional for us to create laws about Kalihi. You need, like it's in the Hawaii Constitution, we have to create general laws that apply to everybody.
Right.
So in Kalihi, we need the same policies that apply to Honokaihale. You know, we need the same sort of approach, which is we got to make sure that we're building housing for local people and not for, you know, overseas investors or just investors, period. We need to make sure that we are, you know, best using our public resources for that purpose. But, you know, the situation that Kalihi needs is really the same thing that you guys need in Kapolei and Honokaihale. It's the same kind of stuff.
Yeah. Carole, what's your thoughts? You know, again, just bringing it back to Kalihi. I always think of, you know, this audience, if you're watching, you're probably on your couch on your phone. And you're probably, you know, maybe you're not watching the news. You're probably, you just got done watching something fun and we popped up. And it's probably like some random person sitting on the couch that just stumbled through this and says, you know what, for me, I see this in my community. What's going on? How do we approach this? You know, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, and I have to agree with Ikaika. It's not just Kalihi, right? Because a lot of the people that you find in any area, including Kalihi, aren't necessarily from there. That's where they ended up for whatever reason. We see a lot of people that were downtown in the lower Kalihi area now that are moving back in the valley because it's gotten crowded. There's lots of people. And so finding a place where you can have kind of your own little security, your own little space, you spread out, right? You go further back. So, I mean, I'm going to say 10 years ago, I didn't see people in the back of the valley living under bridges. You do now?
Yeah, we do. Absolutely.
And so it's that kind of thing where there's an issue that's growing bigger, and so it's impacting everywhere. And it's getting into places where you wouldn't expect it, right? And so I don't think that there is, because each individual that is living under a bridge has a different reason for being there. There's no one size fits all. Cost of living, right? The one that really gets me is when I see a family living in a car that they go to work, they go to school, but their home is their car. And then they got to find a place to park it, a safe place to park it. We got to do better, right? But you can't afford to buy a new home. There's all the homes in our area are, for the most part, packed, right? We're the kind of the beginning of monster homes, where you, instead of building an apartment building, you build a house, and you build an apartment building to look like a house, right? And the reason is because there's a demand. People want to live somewhere, right? And many of the houses have 3, 4, 5 families in one structure. How they divide it up, whether it's by room or by the one underneath in the back, or it's the underhouse that's been kind of boarded up so that it's become its own space, right? There's the need for housing at a price that people can afford.
And part of it is that we have what housing experts would call exclusionary zoning. We have land laws, which basically prevent the building of the appropriate densities that our communities, that our families really need. What we really need is apartments.
And then we also have the not in my backyard, right?
That's all part of that exclusionary thing.
Of course.
So like the School Street affordable housing for seniors. It's been, I think we're on year 10, 8, 9, something like that. And they're breaking ground. Right? 3 years of fighting over it just to say it's needed. So one of the things that I worked for the Red Cross, and I was a preparedness manager. We installed free smoke alarms in the house of seniors. So been into many houses in the valley and in my area installing free smoke alarms for our seniors. Grandma's living there by herself in the 3-bedroom house where she raised her family. Everybody's left. Grandpa's passed. She's by herself. There's no place for her to go, right? So, could put more people in there, but grandma has no place to go. if that housing was allowed to be built, it's finally getting done, Grandma could move into a place where she has neighbors that watch after her, where she has services available close, where there's easy route to the bus because she doesn't drive anymore, right?
Oh.
So those are the kind of people that we do a disservice when we say, oh, no, it's got to be single family homes and you got to have this big a yard all the way around. So the monster homes are making it look like that from the outside, but the inside is what it is. It's an apartment building.
Yeah.
And
like
we've lost that.
Right, exactly. And if that grandma had a place to go to, then it would allow for that 3-bedroom home to be sold or rented out to another local family.
Yeah, exactly.
It's interesting because from a outsider's perspective, I don't live in Kalihi, right?
Yeah.
And we do these metrics, we look at the analytics and we kind of break it down. These numbers are people.
Yeah.
Right? These numbers are lives.
Yes.
Absolutely.
These numbers are, people who are struggling. What I'm hearing is a sense of understanding that. And I thank you so much for feeling that way and thinking that way. I do kind of want to move forward to our second topic, which is crime and illegal game rooms. So I'm just going to kind of pull that up again. I don't know if this is helping, but hey, if it is, great. If it's not, then
it's a very nice slideshow.
Okay, yeah, there you go. It's for you. I was like, hey, what? All right, so crime and illegal game rooms. So the Honolulu Police Department has identified these game rooms as hotspots for criminal activity, causing a major public safety concern. Here's a statistic. Over 700 property crimes and 300 drug-related incidences were reported in 2023, with many linked to illegal game rooms. So my question is, do you like playing poker? I'm just joking. That's not the question.
Okay.
I like winning at poker.
Yeah. I had to lay in there. I was like, man, that's a pretty heavy stat. I think specifically in your district, we can all agree that there is some crime and there's some things going on.
Absolutely.
And I'm gonna I hope I'm not speaking for you, but that's not a good thing. Let's just simplify it. That's not a good thing. So I guess the thought is, and we'll start with you, Ikaika, specifically in this district, what are some of the things that you're seeing? What is your approach to this? What are your thoughts? And I know the position that you're running for and what you can do, but I kind of do want to hear a little bit of this is kind of my whole thought process around it.
What I'm going to say is going to be really controversial, and I'm sorry if it upsets people, but what I hear from the people in our neighborhoods, is that there is crime. They've reached out to the police and they have not found, the appropriate kind of response and appropriate action taken to deal with their particular problems. Like, for instance, there's a young guy who was just recently attacked by dogs that were released by hunters they're doing their thing, going up Mauka, hunting pigs, and their dogs were unleashed. The dogs ran out and attacked this guy.
Oh man!
And it was bad. He had to go to the hospital. And he's been trying to work with the police to get satisfaction and to get justice served. And I think actually in his case, the police are being really responsive. But, a few weeks ago, there was a shooting at Kalihi Valley Homes. And what I understand from the residents there is that they haven't gotten the kind of reaction from the police that they need. So I think part of it is simply kind of working with our law enforcement officers. I personally kind of want to take things off of their plate. I don't want them to deal with kind of silly things like the parking situation. I think there's better ways for us to handle those kinds of frankly non-criminal activity, so that they can focus on the real important job, like getting these guns off of the streets that are currently harming our neighbors, or dealing with actual criminal, especially non-property crime. I mean, to me, that property statistic is a problem, not just from the crime piece of it, but also from kind of the social justice angle. Why does someone commit property crime? It's because they're hungry. They need money. They need whatever, to survive. So I think we need to approach that with a little bit more of a holistic approach. are we providing the jobs? Are we creating a situation where people can actually afford to live in our community and not have to resort to something as obviously wrong, but also stupid as committing a property crime to feed their family or whatever it is.
Yeah. It's interesting. Carole, what's your thoughts around game rooms, crime? What's going on in Kalihi?
I really appreciate the fact that they finally changed some legislation to allow to go after the property owners, right?
That's important.
The guys who they rent it knowing it's going to become a game room. It happens. Eventually, they come, they shut down the game room, and then they pause for maybe a month. And then they rent it again to the next guy who's going to set up another game room, right? So the property owners have to have some responsibility, and I'm glad to see that that's finally coming to fruition, that there's some, if you are allowing illegal activities on your property, there is some repercussions to you. So I appreciate that because really it is an issue, and it does draw people who are willing to break the law, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to go gamble here, and that means I know it's illegal. I'm willing to break the law. Bringing those people into the community, and I mean, like literally into the community where there's houses all around. It's not
across from the school, across from Kalihi School.
It's just it's not like far away. This is in the heart of the community.
Yeah.
And so I think that we really have to deal with that. And it's a magnet. It's just like if you have, like what happened with River of Life downtown, right? They were feeding people. What a great thing. They were feeding people who needed food. But in having a central location, it became a hub. It drew people. And then all the businesses around it had a hard time dealing with these people who were coming because there was food available. Yeah. And now that they've changed their paradigm, and now they go to the individuals, they go to different places, they don't have that hub, that's helped that area to become more inviting to people who are not there just going to get the food, right? Yeah. So where you put the, what do I want to call it, bait, you put the bait, that's where you're going to get people coming to do illegal activities. So remove the bait, and that it brings down the level somewhat.
I wonder, how long have you been living in Kalihi Valley?
About 10 years. 10
years, and clearly you know the area, and you said your whole family.
Yeah.
Have you folks seen a difference in not just crime, but the other side, police? And I'm going to preface this with, just the community that I've been in. I was raised with, there was an officer who'd come to Kapolei Middle School, Officer Loudermilk. If you're listening, what's up, officer? And I was kind of a little bit crazy as a kid, and we knew our police officers. They knew me, not in a bad way at all. But there was like a really good thing going on, and even our firefighters as well. There was a time where I remember they would like run, and I was this young boy, like, "Oh, what's up?" And have you seen any difference there? Good, bad, anything? And I'm just gonna throw it out there. But if you've been around the community, what's your take on that? Have you seen anything? Observed anything? Has it gotten worse? Are they not in the community? Are they really in the community? What's changed?
Well, my sense is that right now HPD is struggling with recruitment and retention of officers. Right?
Yeah.
Those folks are severely overworked. Right? And so, I absolutely see them in our community. They're doing really important work. We need to make it easier for them to do their work, though.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that is where it rises to the level of like statewide budget policy. Are we providing the right resources?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I really appreciate what the city's done with the core program, taking mental health out of the police response, right?
Yeah.
So if necessary, if there's violence or something like that, the police respond. But if not, then it's EMS. It's the people who come to help. It's the people, the social worker, and they come to bring the services, not just lock you up or drag you to Queens. So then you get your thing bandaged up, and then you're sitting on the corner, let loose with nowhere to go, right?
Oh yeah. That's a whole nother topic.
Yeah. But I think that the state has a program too. Nobody knows about it. We fund it. It
Yeah.
exists.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we could do more in responding to the needs of people who have mental health issues in a way that is not burdening the police department, not burdening the fire department, because they're the first responders when it comes to a health emergency, right? It's the fire department. So we know it's an issue. We need to support solving that problem
Yeah.
and let the others do what they're supposed to do, right? What their job description is.
Right. I'm going to move forward because you kind of brought up mental health, and this is one of the topics. This is our kind of third stat. You know, if you're watching this and you're listening to this podcast, you probably watch a lot of social media, and the chances are you're probably younger than 50. That's just statistically, you're probably younger than 50. And there's been a massive amount of mental health crisis going on in this age group. And we've seen the end result. We see it all through Hawaii. We're seeing it in Kalihi and in your district as well. And so I'm gonna skip a few of these topics, and I'm gonna just jump right into that because I think that's really, really important. Okay. So mental health and community support. Mental health is becoming an increasingly important issue in District 29, especially in lower income families. Some of the statistics, 60% of lower income residents in District 29 report facing barriers to accessing mental health services as provided by Governor Josh Green. Local organizations like Kokua, Kalihi Valley, right, KKV, are making strides, but more government support is needed to make the demand. To meet the demand. So what's your thoughts on this? Clearly there's a need. We've talked about it, and that's kind of interlaced between the crime and the homelessness and the houselessness and all that stuff. So maybe you could touch a little on that, Kara, as you were kind of talking about that. But what can we do? What can we do to provide more of these mental health services?
Well, I think that one of the things is, and I know you don't want to talk policy, but I think that I have friends whose father has mental illness. He's on the street. They cannot get him any services because he refuses.
Wow.
So our laws have changed to say that unless you're a danger to yourself or a danger to others, then you can refuse services.
Yeah.
So his whole family wants to help, but they can't because he's like, no, he's not in his right mind. He won't accept it. So instead of being with the family somewhere where he could get help or in a medical institution where he could get help, he's living on the streets. And they try and go and visit him and they try and bring him stuff, but he's not in enough of a mental state to even know who they are. They love him. They want to help him.
Right.
But they can't. Legally, their hands are tied. I think that's pretty criminal.
Yeah.
That if someone is not in their right mind, they should be able to, the family should be able to say, hey, we want to help this person. And they should have support to do that.
Yeah. What's your thoughts around that, Ikaika? So you kind of bring up a point where people want to do things and their hands are tied. They can't really do that. But what's your thoughts around more support for mental health in specifically Kalihi?
So I just want to respond directly to the situation that Carole was bringing up because that is tragic.
Yeah.
I do think, though, that there are, I don't know the specifics, right, for this particular family, but there are legal mechanisms for families to, for instance, what's the word? For power of attorney, et cetera, for them to exercise that kind of control and support.
But you can't make a person do anything. They have power of attorney, they have complete, but they cannot force him to be brought into a medical facility or to get medical help.
Yeah, and so what I wanted to mention in addition is that I had a conversation with, and I'm not an expert on any of these things, right? I'm really not. But I had a conversation with a voter. She lives just down the street from me, and she is, I think she was at Queens. She was just a regular nurse at Queens for years. And she decided recently that she wants to devote her career to caring for these particular individuals, the folks that are that most at risk and at need, who have the most needs. Wow. And what I asked her is the same question, Josh. I asked her, what do you need help with? Like, what do we do? And she said that they need resources. They need resources to go in and provide that kind of level of care, which is so intense and hard to do. So, I think she's the expert, and if that's what she says, then that's what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
So they need resources.
Yeah, I think, and that's awesome on both sides. You both bring really valid points, I believe. In your position, you are both difference makers. You're here at this table and we're having conversations around how we're going to move Hawaii forward and how we're going to better the district, and oftentimes I see massive business come into communities and you see extreme poverty right next to them. I can talk a little bit about my community and how that works, but it seems like if you were to connect that dot between finding the funds and getting those resources, we could probably take a step forward.
Yeah.
Right. And so, just something I'm observing, right, is like as you're in this space and as we're moving, if you're in Kalihi and you're listening to this, it seems like there could be more solutions that is not just on the government's back, but it's also through our own individual help, right, and our own efforts. And so anyway, I commend you both for talking about how we can move forward in this, and I think it makes a lot of sense. Any questions on that? I think it's kind of an interesting topic because it's one where you can't force anybody to do what they need to be doing, right? It's kind of like even that intervention when you're going through drugs. You can't force them to go to rehab, as much as that might be the best case thing. My wife's a nurse practitioner, so we kind of go through these scenarios, and I'm a weirdo like that. Like, whatever happened if this person did that, and then there's all these policies put in place, and they're actually there, and they started or rooted with a positive note.
Yes.
Right? And then things kind of grow, whether good or bad. And so I think what we're talking about here is there are solutions to be had.
Yeah.
But there isn't one definitive way to do it.
Like one of the very real things, and your wife can probably attest to this, is that even if you were to get everyone to do an intervention for someone who really needs help, like with a drug problem, we don't have enough programs for them to go into.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a friend of mine. He's on the neighborhood board in Kalihi Valley, where he was telling me that there's like a 1.5-year waiting list for folks who are going to go into those more intense programs for folks with really severe mental problems. And so again, it's like, yes, it's tricky, but in some ways it's not. In some ways it's not. It's about figuring out how do we raise more money, from Amazon just moved here. They're going to make a lot of money here. How do we appropriately tax Amazon or Mark Zuckerberg or Larry Ellison, who bought an entire island and paid $0 in conveyance taxes? Like, that's the real situation, is that the rich are absolutely taking advantage of us.
Okay, and so I'm going to come back to that. I think that we have things in our state that are not being done well, done efficiently. Right. We just built a new mental health hospital. Is it open fully? No. Was it supposed to be open fully, I think, 8 years ago? Right. Yes. Okay.
And it has a very limited scope, right? It's only for folks moving through the criminal justice program.
But I'm just saying, pointing out the inefficiencies, right? Sure. We would come up with a great idea. New hospital, because the old one's old. But we don't follow through. We never go through. We never make sure that it gets done. We never implement it. We never evaluate it. We never come back to, is this working or not working? It's not working. How do we change it, right? We just keep building on, adding on. So
I think
it's very frustrating.
I do want to point out again that you did a really good debate on some of this stuff through Civil Beat. Mm-hmm. And I know you guys both kind of go into this deeper. So again, if you want to know this, you want to hear all this, go to Civil Beat, go do that. I kind of want to just I think it's important to note that there's multiple things. And I love how we're having a conversation on how there's multiple ways to do this. There's multiple things that we're talking about from both perspectives, and you're hearing both of them. And you, as a listener, get to make that decision and decide. Yeah. What are you aligned with in where you're at in your life, and how you think that's going to benefit Kalihi, benefit your neighborhood. With that, I want to take a quick break. So we can do this quick break. We can stretch, and then we'll come on back. But if you're listening, share this. especially with your neighbors. If you live in Kalihi and you're hearing this, I want to challenge you. Share this clip because I think it is showing who these two amazing people are that's going to represent you. Go ahead. You can put a comment, and share this through your social media platforms. But we'll be right back. Thank you. Hey, hope you're having a good time on the podcast. Wanted to take a quick break to bring today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is Sweet Life Tea. It's a tea that helps people get through anxiety. Listen, I have anxiety flying, I have anxiety kind of in a lot of areas. And it was something that was affecting me. And so I found this tea. It has organic, natural, vegan, non-GMO ingredients that when you put them all together, it just helped me relax. So there's things like chamomile, licorice root, lavender, and I felt like I wanted to bring you something that helped me. So if you're struggling with anxiety and you just need something to kind of relax that's organic, go ahead and go to sweetlifetea.com. Put in the code SITDOWNHawaii for 10% off. Okay, looking forward to the rest of the podcast. Okay, hey, welcome back. Thank you for being here. We're the Sit Down Hawaii podcast. And when we cut the break, it was awesome. Let me just put it that way. I got to tell you that I think that both of these people care deeply about Kalihi, care deeply about Hawaii, care deeply about what's going on in the world today. And I love that because passion will move people forward. And so I think that's a very, very good thing. I want to cut away. We're going to do a quick game. They don't know about this game. I'm just letting you know right now that this is kind of off the cuff, okay? I had my team put together what I think to be some of the best representing businesses in Hawaii, okay? And specifically in your district or around your district, okay?
Right, okay.
I did some deep research. So, Ikaika,
Yes.
it was said, I think on your webpage, could be wrong, that you search the island for the best plate lunch. That popped up? That you're almost like a connoisseur of like food. You love food. And that you like plate lunches. Is this right or am I lying?
I don't think that's true.
Shoot. Well, you know what? We're going to do it anyway because I don't know. I read it and we could be wrong.
I do like food, but not. That's okay. Go on.
Okay.
Keep going. Go on.
Okay. So I want to even see like where that came from because that is crazy. And I was like, dude, I love food. That's my thing. What we're going to do here is I'm going to pull up a menu from Helena's.
All right. Helena's. Okay.
Helena's.
No problem.
We know Helena's.
Wait.
Helena's.
Come on now. Come on.
What's our budget? What's my
Yeah.
budget, Josh?
Unlimited budget.
Oh, so
Okay.
this is not real.
Okay, for this case, it's a unlimited budget.
Okay.
And here's the thing. I want you to do your order after, hey, you know what? You just had a long day at the beach. You're with the family and like, you know what? I'm hungry.
Okay.
I want some Hawaiian food.
Okay.
Shoots.
And here, let me get your order. I'm gonna wow, this is really not helping. I'm so sorry.
okay.
We
you know the menu.
You get the
Alright,
menu.
we know the
You-
menu.
Can I
have
just fake it?
Yeah,
I know what I'm
Like,
gonna
I'll
order.
just tell you what I want, and if it's not on the menu, they should put it on the
No,
menu.
it gotta be Helena. I'm
Okay.
so sorry. It's kind of small, and that is not good.
Well, the correct answer is you want the butterfish.
Woo-hoo,
And
we going butter.
and you got to have the large poi. There's no point in getting a small poi.
point for small poi. Sure.
You want the opihi and
I
the
like
pipi
opihi.
kaola.
I want.
I'll give you. You can do your order. Okay, let's
Okay,
roll
okay,
this. Hey, how's it going, sir? How's it going? Welcome to Helena's. I'm glad that you're here. As you know, we're a staple here. We've been here for we're in New York Times, and we love our Hawaiian food here.
Yeah.
What are you gonna have today, sir?
So I'm gonna get the butterfish. I'm gonna
Okay.
get the opihi,
Okay.
large poi, pipi kaola.
Poi, no
And-
rice.
No, I'm not gonna get rice at Helena's.
Oh, okay, no rice. Poi, okay.
And the thing is, you gotta also get, I think, grape soda or the red cream one. You know, the not healthy, but delicious. And if they happen to have kulolo, which they normally don't have kulolo, I would get kulolo. I would get kulolo over haupia any day.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Hey, welcome to Helena's. I'm glad you're here. What can I
Aloha.
get you?
I'd like to get some poke,
Okay.
and then with poi, of course. Yeah,
Of
large
course.
poi.
Okay, gotcha.
And I would like a lau lau.
Okay.
And I'm not sure. You have squid luau today?
Yeah, we got it. We
Okay.
got it into just
Squid
for
luau.
you. Okay,
Yep.
awesome.
And then kulolo. And I'm
Cool.
good.
Okay, good. That's our orders. Listen, you can judge those orders. You can judge those orders. I can tell. I'm actually really hungry. It's
Sorry,
hard.
I should have brought you some food.
Yeah, it's hard to admit this, but like living on the west side, to go to Helena's to eat, like, I love it. And it's so hard to say because we got highway and we got all this stuff by us, but that coffee, the pipi kala is on a level, right? Tell me not. It's on a next level.
Kapolei, you have Five Guys, which is a really good burger place.
I like Five Guys.
And then actually, there's a lot of good places over there.
Oh yeah. Talk about unhealthy, but hey, good Hawaiian food. Okay, I got one more for you. Ready?
All right.
Okay. Cool. Okay. Right. Okay. So we did a research. Maybe this is real or not because now I don't know. But Carole, you like shave ice?
I do.
She does. Okay, cool. So maybe that's right. Viola shave ice.
Viola's number one for me.
Oh, number one. Okay.
Number one
hang
for
on.
me. Yep.
Hot day.
Hot day.
It's been hot lately. Hot day.
Yes.
And you're like, we need some shave ice. So let me pull up the menu for you real quick.
I don't need.
We'll start with you. I'll put it this way. What is the go-to?
Let Carole go first.
Yeah, let go. So I'm gonna show you the menu. You don't need, but don't skimp. Full budget. Do what you want.
You gotta get pretty basic.
Okay.
Man.
Oh, okay.
Just ice cream on the bottom.
Ice cream cake.
Right. And then I want mango, lychee, and if you got it, lilikoi
Okay.
with a snow cap.
She went snow cap.
Okay.
She went snow cap.
I've never tried the snow cap.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm not judging you, but it's worth a try. It's worth a try. Okay, what we got?
So I would get the. I was just thinking about my uncle used to have a grocery, like a little shave ice place in near my elementary, John's Grocery.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'm kind of owner for that right now. But back to Waiolaula. So I would get ice cream on the bottom and azuki beans. And if they have mochi, do they have mochi at Waiolaula?
They do.
I would do that as well.
Okay.
That's a critical trifecta. And then you have on top in flavors, I would get lychee. Do they have lihing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Lihing.
Do that. Yeah. And I recently went to Kona for a family reunion, and there was a place there that had a really good mango flavoring. And I'm hoping that the Waiolaula is as good. Okay, so then we're gonna get mango, and then if we get lihing powder on top, that would be nice.
It's gonna kill the mango.
You don't like lihing mango?
Not on my shave ice.
Oh, okay.
This is the debate I want to hear.
You got the sweet, not the sour, right?
And don't even talk about tax policy.
Yeah, forget about that.
This is
so
a
the
real one.
lihing goes with the sour. That's when it's pickled, and you get, but when you go with the sweet, you gotta.
See, the
You
nice
put some
thing.
thought into this.
The nice thing about shave ice, which is better than government, is that we can all have different shave ice.
Absolutely.
true.
Absolutely.
But we can only have one state budget.
But if we only get one, I share.
That's
Right
good.
on.
I tell you what, tu lihimoi or not tu lihimoi, that is the question.
That's right.
Now.
That's right,
And that's
William.
what really matters. All right, thank you for participating. I promise you it wasn't going to be crazy.
But you didn't talk about gulick.
No, I didn't. Hey, shout out to Gulick. Okay,
Yeah.
shout out.
He was a good guy.
Yeah.
Theodore Gulick.
Shout
Well,
out.
I'm talking about the food.
Oh,
Okay?
yeah,
I
the
didn't
sorry.
meet the guy
Gulick, the food.
personally.
Yeah.
But,
He was a neat guy. He was he was a plantation guy who supported the royalty. He was in favor of the
one
monarchy.
Yeah.
Listen,
That's that whole area.
that is news to me, but that's awesome. That's
That's
awesome.
good.
You know,
That's
I
good
just know it's good food. Thank you so much. I'm actually really hungry.
But you got to go early.
Yeah. Oh,
Just
are you
saying.
out? Are you out? Yeah.
out.
Like for us, I won't say who we're interviewing next, but we got Tanioka's, and I'm like, you better bring it. Because
Ooh.
Tanioka's is my jam.
Okay, that's what I'm going after this.
Yeah.
then.
Ooh, real good. Thank you so much for being here. I want to stop and just give honor where honor is due. I really, really
Thank you.
appreciate you being here. You don't need to be here, but I do think it is beneficial. I want to go into the finish our talk story real quick, and then I'll give you folks a little bit of time to talk about some things that matter to you.
Okay.
And you can talk to the people. We can kind of go down that road, but let's go into education. Clearly, you both care about people.
Yeah.
Whether it's Kalihi or the whole state. We do have some very specific facts for your demographic, and then also for your district. I want to pull that up because I think it's quite important. 1 second. So sorry. Okay. So some of the facts about the elementary schools. So Kalihi Uka Elementary School ranks in the top 50% of schools in Hawaii. I'm going to be honest, this is the best ranking school in your district, with 45 to 49%. They're between 45 to 49% of reading proficiency, which is slightly above the state average. A school has 259 students with a diverse racial component, 55% Asian, 21% Hawaiian, and 15% identifying as two or more races. Kalihi Elementary School ranking at the bottom of 50% of Hawaii schools. Percentage is quite low. 24% reading proficiency. Where are we at? Kalihi Kai Elementary ranking bottom 50%. And then what is this school? Kauhiwai? Did I say that right?
Kauhiwai.
Kauhiwai Elementary School. Again, I apologize. Ranking 50%. We're going to go into the middle school. Stanford B. Dole Middle School, ranking bottom 50% of schools in Hawaii. Performance, math proficiency is at 11%. Reading proficiency is at 25%, placing it among the lowest performing schools in the district. And then I'm going to go to the high school. We kind of covered Farrington High School. Please don't be mad at me. These are just facts. Ranking at the bottom, 50% of schools in Hawaii. Performance math proficiency, 22%. Reading proficiency is at 59% of state average, with over 2,300 students. Many students come from economically disadvantaged families, which impacts academic performance. We hear all these numbers. Majority of the schools in the district are below the state average. I don't want to give you a foolproof question. I just want to hear your thoughts around it. Yeah. Clearly, there's a need there. Clearly, there's tons of things that need to be addressed. And I want to leave it open-ended at that. We've got the facts. What are your thoughts around it? Maybe we'll start with you, Ikaika.
So when I think about education in Hawaii, what I always think about is that during the Kingdom of Hawaii, Hawaii had the best education system in the world.
Yep, 95%.
We had essentially universal literacy. We have gone from being the very best to being part of the United States, which is at the bottom of industrialized countries. And we are at the bottom of the United States in terms of our educational proficiency.
Yeah.
We used to have this incredible education system. And I think the critical thing is actually for us to set our goal as that old 19th century education system.
Yeah.
The U.S. in general has poor education proficiency when it's compared with other industrialized countries. We need to aim to be the very best. And one of the, so I've talked to a lot of the teachers at the schools that you were describing, and one of the big problems that they're facing is they're forced to teach to standardized tests, and that is particularly a problem when you zoom out a bit and you look at the overall trends in education from all the best schools, Harvard, Stanford, they're all getting rid of standardized tests as a major metric to ascertain student performance. The best schools, I happen to sit on the board of a small progressive elementary school in Makiki. We don't use those things, and unfortunately, those test scores are tied to money. And so that creates an incentive in which we have to chase money. And so I hate to do this, but it's going to come back down to tax policy and how do we finance the important things for our people like education. And one more additional point, if I could, is that in 2024, in the last legislative session, we passed a big tax cut, which is good for working families, but it's going to require cuts of $1 billion and up in the next 5 or 6 years. And so what I'm thinking about is how do we make sure that we aren't forced to take resources out of public schools, which really need those resources. So again, it's about big money kind of questions.
Gotcha, yeah. Carole, what's your thoughts around everything?
I think that we've talked about the diversity of our district. And on my street, there are 5 languages spoken.
Wow.
Those kids don't speak English at home, and then they go to school. My favorite was just the other day, I was talking to someone, went door to door, I was talking to someone, and she goes, English. And then I said, okay, that's all right. Just wanted to introduce myself. So she called. She brought out her, let's say maybe 8-year-old grandson. And and he became our translator,
Mhm.
right?
Wow.
And in a lot of families, those are the people who are doing the business in the community. It's the elementary, the junior highs that are doing the translating when somebody comes to the door. They're doing the forms that come. I think we need to help understand that exists and help them to do what they're doing, right? So is it a standardized test? I bet you those kids are a little bit smarter than you think because they have to navigate two separate worlds, home world in one language and school world in another language. So I've worked some with some of the ESL teachers in the elementary schools, and they work hard. I think we need to encourage that. I think we need to build more curriculum to help them because it's not the same. If you go home and you hear English and you're everything in your house is written in English and you're learning to read in English, and then you come to school, it's the same. That's easier than if everything in your house is not in English and you come to school and you're forced to work in English only. So, yeah, I think that we need to help in that transition. And if we would help people, have people who understand the transition and have them with curriculum that helps the kids to understand, this is the test. It's written this way. Learning how to learn, how to do that if you have to take the test. But teach them how to navigate the bilingual society that they live in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very interesting that very specifically to your district there is that language barrier, right? Because if you do have this, I'm not saying that there's a language barrier because I do not know, but you do have diversity, that's for sure.
Yes.
And so,
But diversity is not a problem.
And that's kind of what I was thinking.
It should be a strength.
It is a strength.
And so it should be treated as a strength, but we don't recognize it that way, right? And I think I told you about that on our church services, right? On our church campus, we have eight languages every Sunday spoken. That's Kalihi, right?
So multilingualism is kind of the norm, actually. It's just in happens to be that in the United States it's not.
Mm-hmm.
But there's some other stats that you're like, for instance, for math proficiency that's not related, I think, to the language issues. There are other things that we need to fix. Like, for instance, if a child is coming to school and they've experienced domestic violence the night before, it's going to be hard for them to focus. If they come to school hungry, it's going to be hard for them to focus. If they're housing insecure, it's going to be hard for them to focus. So there's all these other pieces of this socioeconomic puzzle that in some ways are kind of precedents to being able to solve for the experience of the kids in the classroom that also fall within our job at the legislature.
Yeah. I mean, again, there's no one real solution to all this. It's interesting because we are reading these facts, and I'm hearing, standardized tests. I'm hearing, multilingual options. There's a lot of things to it. I think at its core, we want our kids to learn. We want our kids to do better.
And honestly, kids want to learn.
One thing that I learned when I was working on education policy 20 years ago I was the committee clerk for the education committee, the state education committee in the House. And I was looking at these stats that HSTA was providing, and the single largest correlation was between, and this is going to sound classist, but frankly it is between educational performance and household income. That there are communities on this island where incomes are much higher and educational performance is high as well. And that's a truth that we need to confront. That if we want to actually solve for education for our kids, we need to figure out how do we make Hawaii more equal. Like, we actually have to solve the basic problems of inequality in our society. And in Kalihi, we have, and on Oahu in general, we have the folks whose islands were literally bombed by the United States military who live here in our community. But then we also have billionaires, right?
Yeah.
So we have this incredibly unfair society. To expect the school performance to not be reflective of that doesn't make any sense. We need to solve the bigger problem, and that's how we're going to solve the smaller problems, and vice versa too.
Yeah. So we set out to do this podcast for 1 hour, and we're over that. And honestly, I didn't even think it was going that long. But I just kind of want to end on maybe one fun tech twist, and then give you folks some time to just really talk, and then we'll kind of close it down. Our team put together Kalihi demographics, all the questions, and we gave it to ChatGPT. And we said, ChatGPT, spit out a question that we should be asking, right?
Okay.
And so here's the questions. The first one, it's for both of you. If you could introduce a new public holiday specific, if you could, to District 29, what would it celebrate? What would it celebrate? And I can give you time to think about it. It's interesting because in this AI world, right, it kind of looks at everything. The social side, the household costs, median income. It looks at education. It looks at everything. Then it says, hey, this question would help you position really the psyche, the thought process to what these candidates could bring towards the district. Mm-hmm. And so hopefully I stalled enough.
Yeah.
Let's start with you,
Do you want to go first? Kim?
Yeah, I think I would do a cultural celebration. And like we're talking about the diversity, right?
Yeah.
And I'm trying to come up with the right words so that it doesn't sound like it's exclusionary, but it's inclusionary, right? That all of us come from somewhere. We all bring something to the table. Let's celebrate the cultures that we bring to the table.
Yeah. I have this fantasy that we could turn the Makahiki celebration into a way of showcasing all of the cultures that feed into our new local sensibility.
So I was in just outside of the district, literally on this side of the road, is Cohill Park Terrace. And I was part of the cultural celebration, putting it together. So it was really fun when we would organize that. And it was things like coconut husking contest. Oh, man, did they get into that one, man. Who's fastest, who could husk and then grate the coconut. That was so much fun. And then there was celebrations. Every group we had 29 ethnic backgrounds represented. And every group brought something, right? So maybe your group brought a dance. Another group did games, sports and games from the different cultures. It was such a blast.
Yeah, I like the idea of having everyone gets to bring whole kupu from their various cultures, and
that's cool.
Yeah. That's I like that idea.
Nice.
Since we're kind of talking about the same thing, maybe something that I could add to the conversation is like if we had some kind of celebration of future generations. Recognizing
explain that. That's interesting.
Well, we are making decisions about what's going to happen over the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years, right? And I think that really needs to be sort of our orientation, the perspective that we're taking on the decisions that we're making. It's not about us. It's really about our kids, our grandkids. It's about our neighbors' kids and grandkids, and it's about people that are going to look back on us as their ancestors. So how do we become good ancestors for these folks in the future? How do we become good future ancestors? That I think is the critical question that should underline and undergird all of the crazy politics that we're dealing with at the Capitol and in Washington, D.C. Is how is this going to affect the future?
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is a really good space to maybe just in closing, and you both have maybe about a minute or so to just talk about what's on your heart and what your thoughts are. I know you're both campaigning pretty hard. You're doing a really good job, both of you. I think that the people in your district are, from my perspective, both very kind, both very smart, and I'm very, very thankful for you being here. Future forward thinking. And this podcast is about talking about issues to moving Hawaii forward. So I really appreciate you kind of wrapping that up for me. You can do my job. It's perfect. But yeah, I want to give you a minute. What's on your heart? What's your thoughts? You can go directly to the people of Kalihi. You can do whatever you thought, but this time is yours. So I'll let you kind of go first, Ikaika.
Well, I guess just say thank you. Thank you very much, Josh. And to celebrate the launch of this new podcast. And I hope that you have a bunch of really good conversations with everyone who comes on. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, Carole.
Yeah, and I'm grateful. I was like, we're first? Really? Okay. Well, and what this campaign season, this last couple months has been very much discussions in different formats, in different places. And so I think that needs to continue, right? You need to be able to hear what people have to say and to feel where they're coming from, and what's their perspective. And I think one of the best things that I had seen, which it was kind of a meme, but anyway, a vote is not a Valentine for somebody you love. A vote is a chess move to the future you want to see. And so I really like that. I appreciate that.
Nice. With that in closing, thank you so much for being here with us, sitting down at the Sit Down Hawaii podcast. Listen, your voice does matter. Your vote does matter. Go out there. You've heard two really amazing perspectives. I also want to push you to the civil beat when they were going back and forth. Not everything is all happy. Not everything is all well put together. Everyone has their opinions, and I really urge you to go and check that out so you can see the stark differences on what we believe in. But I do hope today that you've seen two people who care about you, that there is aloha here, and that we are moving forward. And with that, thank you so much. Take care. I'll see you on YouTube. Aloha. That was awesome. So having Carole and Ikaika kind of go back and forth was interesting. I want to talk a little bit about Carole when she came in. So she came in probably, 17 minutes before we started. She's very genuine. You can see that she's thoughtful, she's caring. And I truly believe she cares about the people. When I was talking with her and she brought up the family in the car, I looked at her eyes and I could see she was tearing up. I don't think that's because she's hypothetically talking about people in cars. I think she actually knows a family or two that is struggling in Kalihi that's living in a car. And I could see it, and I could even feel it in the way that she was responding to that I don't think she's here just to be a career politician. I actually think she wants to help people, and that was very, very apparent. Ikaika, it was a little different. He's very polished, and I got this feeling in the sense that he knows the position and the job really, really well. He knows what to do in this position to help the district. But more than that, I got this sense of, he has a really good direction, and he's gonna go get it in a good way. I think that he speaks well. He thinks before he speaks, and he's polished in his approach. And I think it's gonna take him I think it's gonna get him really far. And, when we cut the cameras to do the break and stretch, they kind of got into it. And a little mini debate broke out, and he felt one thing, and he challenged me on my questions as to hey, the positioning in Kalihi, and then, Carole had her thing, and it got a little tense, and I thought it was great. And there was no disrespect. And the way that he brought it up was he's just passionate in educating everyone on how things work and the position that he's really, applying for. And I thought that was really, really good. When it comes to their choices for shave ice, I got to tell you, Carole knew exactly what she wanted. Down to the science. You don't put lihimoi off of something that is already good. She already kind of knew. And I feel like he went with azuki beans and he snuck that in there, and that's my jam. So right on to him. Listen, Kalihi, I think that was a really, really good podcast showing who they are as people. But yeah, anyway, super solid. Aloha.